Hello, beautiful friends. I am Laurel, Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and hopefully fall asleep, all while you get to connect with the love of your angels and hear a bedtime story designed to help you drift off. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And you can find out more about my services and classes at illuminatingsouls.com. But for right now, I am here to help cultivate a sacred, loving, comforting space where you can get a good night's rest. So I invite you to take a deep breath in and out. And the angels are already here. If you're new to the world of angels, they are divine messengers of God. They are celestial beings who are the embodiment of divine love. And we all have them. They have been with us since before we were born. And they are here to help you come into your own loving. They're here to help you on your life's path. They're here to bring you comfort. And they are a wonderful resource as we walk this life here on planet Earth. And it's always interesting to me that when I call in the angels or begin channeling them, the first thing they always say is, okay, take a deep breath. And that's what I keep hearing tonight as I record this message is return to the breath. Take a deep breath in and release. And again, please, a big deep breath in all the way down to the bottom of your lungs. And then release. Clearly, we breathe every day. Yes, we breathe, otherwise we would not be here. But there is a profound difference between the breath of the autonomous nervous system and the deep, intentional breath when we breathe in the love that is here for us. It cultivates something within us. I know for me, it helps me to begin to relax, and it helps me to come present. You know, it's interesting as we get started. This podcast has been an evolution and will continue to be an evolution. I received the spark of inspiration to start it several months ago, but didn't actually find the courage or the momentum to begin recording it until December of last year. And I promised myself and you by extension that I would be recording 2 episodes a week. And I kind of had a sense on what these would be, but I really love the form of co-creation where the co-creation informs me along the way, that I don't necessarily go in with a script or an agenda, that I haven't planned everything out to the nth degree. I really love the spontaneity and the joy of seeing what wants to be born in the moment. So this is actually going to be my 22nd episode, which is so cool. That means that there's almost 24 hours worth of content that you could listen to. So my 22nd episode, and what I've discovered is there seems to be 3 components to each episode. This part that we're in, where we talk and muse and ramble a little bit about whatever the theme is of the evening. And then I call in the angels, but they're already here. And I walk us through a process with the angels. And then I read to you for a little while. And I have to say I'm really enjoying the rhythm that is coming forth for each episode. I love getting to share a little bit of life with you here in the beginning. I hope you're enjoying it. And actually, if you are someone who has been listening to the podcast, I would love to hear from you. I would love to know what are your favorite parts and what's working for you, and if there's anything you would like me to add or enhance. I'm totally open to hearing from you. What I want to talk about tonight, I picked an angel card before I got started, and I'll be honest that it didn't resonate for me very much, but with the angels, I argue with them. You don't always have to do what they say. Yes, you get to argue because you have free will. And the card was harmony, which is a beautiful card, right? Who doesn't love harmony? So it's not that it's not a helpful card, but I wasn't necessarily feeling the message of it as I record this episode. But then what came forward was a flashback to when I first started opening to the metaphysical world. And I shared some of this. I actually used to have another podcast called Musings of an Earth Girl that's still available. I just don't add new episodes to it anymore, where I shared about my first ever psychic experiences. And you can always go back and listen to the details, but the short version of it is that I had decided to go back to school to get an MBA because I wanted to earn more money. That was the wisdom. I was in my 20s, I think probably, 25 or 26 years old. And the first class that you have to take as part of the MBA program I was in was a class in human development and human potential. And as I was registering, the guidance counselor pointed to the catalog and she said, "You should take it with this professor," and pointed to his picture. His name was Dr. Reardon. And what I couldn't know at the time was that he taught the class through the filter of New Thought wisdom. Your thoughts create your reality. Law of attraction. Shamanism. I mean, we are talking far into woo-wooville. And these were people that accounting firms were sending for their MBAs. This was not some cool class you would sign up through Gaiam or Hay House with. This was hardcore business. And when I tell you that I rolled my way into that class, I am not exaggerating. I thought it was all a bunch of airy-fairy crazy talk. God bless me and my skeptical nature. And a lot of what he started off teaching was the things that in the metaphysical world we now take as truth. That the world is energetic and vibrational. And there's an adage. We started off studying this book called Mastering Your Hidden Self by Serge Kahali King, which is a book about Hawaiian shamanism. And there were some tenets in the book. And one is, the world is what you think it is. Now, if you're on the self-growth journey, you have probably explored this is a piece of spiritual wisdom. But in the spirit of harmonics and harmony and our episode tonight, I want to give you a little more insight to how this tends to resonate for me. So way back when, in the late 80s, when I was in my MBA program, I really felt that the world was what the world is, and we have to adapt, right? The world, if it was cold out, I'd put on a sweater. If there was chaos around me, I would figure out how to navigate the chaos. So life was happening to me, and I would sometimes find ways to influence life, but I wasn't necessarily aware of my own ability to shift the harmonic of my experience of life until I took this class. And I had some remarkable experiences, and he had to drag me into it because I was not about to accept this philosophy until I had some incredible experiences. So now here it is, 30 something years later, and this is who I am. This is how I live my life. This is my career. And here's an aspect of it that I want to share with you. When we say the world is what you think it is, it has to do with the perception filter and the narrative through which you see the world. And typically, we get to be right. So here's a really easy example. If somebody walks around thinking you can't trust people, people are inherently out for themselves, and you have to always be watching over your shoulder, they will likely be able to reference many, many experiences that make them right, because we live in a realm of shadow and light. There will always be examples that make that perception filter accurate. But you know what also is true? If one chooses to live with the philosophy that people are inherently good, and 99% of the population is kind and good and generous, then the perception filter begins to illuminate all the examples that make that perception accurate. The world is what you think it is. So I live my life looking for the goodness in people. It's one of the blessings of working with the angels, because the angels always see us through the heart of love and compassion. I've never, ever, ever had an experience with the angels where the angels have rolled their eyes, their metaphoric eyes, and said, "Oy vey, enough with that. We're done with you." The angels come in and they see the beautiful divine being in front of them having a very human experience. So when we talk about harmony in the context of this conversation, I invite you to set an intention or ask the angels to help you to open up your perception filter. Or another way to say that, the way you are seeing and experiencing the world, so that you can experience greater awareness of the beautiful harmony that is available to you. This could mean having more experiences of serendipity, those moments where you kind of gasp because something wonderful just happened, to help you open up to become aware of more experiences of kindness whether they are kindness for you or you witness the kindness of others. I remember being in the grocery store a while back, and there was a woman at the checkout line standing in front of where everybody comes when they check out. And she went down this row of people, and she said, "I want to buy your groceries." And I live in a neighborhood that is not wealthy, so there are a lot of people who live with financial difficulty. And you could see each person just opening up to receive that. And so when I was at the store, I could have looked at all the people who were annoyed that the line was getting held up, or I could have witnessed this beautiful act of kindness happening in front of me. So this is your perception filter. So take a breath in. And so the metaphor that always comes forward for me about the perception filter is, have you ever been to the optometrist? I'm sure you must have at this point, hopefully, God willing. You have good health care and you're able to go to the optometrist. And when they check you for glasses, they put that mechanism in front of your eyes and they start clicking the dials to see what setting allows you to read the chart better. Think of a perception filter in that way. And if you're willing, we'll ask the angels to help shift your perception filter so you can come into greater awareness of the way divine harmony is flowing to you in your life. And maybe you are feeling that up until this point, or over the last few months, or whatever your authentic experience has been, that perhaps divine harmonies felt like it's nowhere in sight. Listen, we've all had passages like that. I know I have. But in this moment, we are going to ask that divine harmony becomes your best friend. If you listened to the last episode, we talked about miracles, and I shared with you about Mr. G, a gentleman I met on a flight. Let's breathe some of that in. Divine harmony is with me. Divine harmony is my best friend. Each day I have experiences that allow divine harmony to be magnetized to me. And you know what's so interesting is I was just saying that. It'll be edited out so you will not hear it. One of the things about recording a podcast without a sound booth is I have to surrender to the white noise around me. And I live about a mile from a freeway. And normally it's just white noise. I can't really hear it. But every once in a while it gets loud. So just then when I was saying, divine harmony surrounds me, there was a motorcycle that just revved it and went grrr, and it won't make the noise. And I was like, hey, come on, I'm manifesting here. And I just paused. Sometimes we just need to pause and surrender and allow that which feels unlike harmony to pass through us like the wind through the willows, so that the harmony can come back. And it did, and it does, and it's here. So I'm going to call the angels in. Let's come into harmony with the angels and let them come into harmony with us. So you take a deep breath in. And if you haven't done so already, you cozy on up, because you are worthy of good rest. Your body is ready to receive rest now. And I'm going to call in the angels who have been here since the first sound of this podcast. They're always so funny. The angels are actually funny. I just want you to know that you don't have to always be reverential with them. In fact, you don't ever have to be reverential with them. They have a great sense of humor. So let's take a deep breath in and out. And beautiful angels on high, we are so grateful to be here with you now. Angels, I thank you for creating this beautiful space of sanctuary where each of us can receive exactly what is needed in this time and space. Angels, thank you for helping us to remember what it feels like to be bathed in the love of God. And angels, I ask that you help clear from us anything that is not ours, anything that no longer serves. And please bring healing to the situations and circumstances in our lives that are feeling tender or challenging, helping to smooth out the energies so that we can be more available to healing and reconciliation in a way that honors our divine path and our divine truth. And everyone take a deep breath in and release. And allow the angels to infuse the room you are in with a soft pink light that is filled with love, that has been calibrated for you and also for anyone that shares your room where you are sleeping, whether it is a partner or your pet or your children, that every sentient being that is with you right now is also receiving this love. And if you would like, the angels will also bring this love to everyone in your home. This ripple can go as far and wide as you would like. It's up to you. Just ask. But make sure you receive it. This form of love that is flowing to you, your entire beingness knows how to receive it. So allow it to travel to your body, your beautiful body that is filled with such wisdom and light and resiliency, letting the love flow to your organs, every cell of your body, letting this love flow to your heart, that if there's anything that is troubling you at all, that this love flows to whatever the circumstances are that are feeling tender in your heart. As the angels bring love across the timeline of your life. And that this love also comes to support the well-being of your mind and your thoughts, helping the thought forms and beliefs that you carry to be in harmony with your well-being. For instance, that you can begin to really feel and know that you are a beloved child of God, that you are precious in this universe. And you just take a deep breath in and receive this into your beingness, that right now your angels and guides are loving on you, helping to clear away any of the debris of the day that you do not need to take into your sleep experience. It's the energetic form of if you are one who likes to take a shower before bed or a hot bath, this is the energetic version of that. Just let it all get cleared away. You have done enough for the day. You have done what you could. So breathe and let yourself relax and receive and allow the vibrational harmony to work with you. The harmonic of healing is steeped in mystery, and we cannot always know how it is working or what it is doing. But I affirm that it is serving your highest and best good right now, as it clears and rebalances your energy field so that you can have deep sleep, but also when the time comes for you to awaken in the morning or whenever that will be for you, that you will feel refreshed and replenished. So take another deep breath in and out, and you have permission to drift off, and the angels will watch over you. And while you rest, I'm going to tell you a story. So tonight, I thought we would return to the magical world of Marshall Fields and Company. So we spent a bit of time there in the last episode, episode 21. And just a little bit of a recap, Marshall Fields and Company was a high-end department store in the Chicago area. And it really helped change the game of what a department store would be. At that time, there were other department stores that were setting the tone, but Marshall Fields was one of them. And having grown up in Chicago, I have a lot of memories of Fields. And so this book was written in the early 1900s and reflects how Marshall Fields became Marshall Fields. And what we're going to explore now is a chapter that is called The First to Establish an Underpriced Basement. So you've probably heard the term bargain basement. And certainly nowadays, for those of you here in the US, we're used to having the stores like Ross or TJ Maxx or Marshall's where we go and buy things that might be off season or that maybe are not reflective of the product lines that you might see in the other kinds of department stores like Bloomingdale's or Saks or Macy's. We're used to good bargains now, right? But when Marshall Fields first established their basement as an area where their customers could find bargains, it set a trend. So that's what we're going to explore together. So if you're somebody who likes a good bargain, you'll like this chapter. The basement of the Marshall Field and Company retail store is of a special interest, and for more than one reason. In the first place, the firm was, in all probability, the first to use a basement for selling purposes. Secondly, it is a certainty that Marshall Field and Company were the pioneers in establishing what has since become a familiar feature in the retail dry goods business, having of late years been adopted in many stores, namely an underpriced basement, economy basement, downstairs store, or whichever one chooses to call a basement wherein are carried goods of lower price than those handled in the upper floors. We are fortunate in being able to reproduce on this page an advertisement published on October 26, 1887, which proves that in that year, the basement sales room of Marshall Field and Company was regarded by the firm as a great supply center for the less expensive grades of merchandise. And the advertisement they have here has the headline that says, "The less expensive but reliable grades of such goods as are required by cold weather are shown in our basement sales room, in a very large assortment and at unquestionably lowest prices." And if you're curious how much things cost back then, ladies' merino vests and drawers of excellent quality were 50 cents each. Ladies' scarlet vests and drawers were 75 cents each. Children's white merino vests and drawers were 15 cents each. Men's camel hair shirts and drawers were 50 cents and 90 cents each. Knit mittens were 10 cents a pair and up. A knit toboggan cap was 25 cents each and up. And blankets of all wool and white were $3 each. And then it says, each of the above quotations is a bargain worthy of careful attention, and for every item printed in the above list, we show 10 or 100 different styles, patterns, or qualities. Our basement is a great supply center for the less expensive grades of merchandise. The article goes on to say, it is equally certain, however, that considerably over 2 years before that time, the basement was used for the sale of lower-priced goods. To go back to the beginnings of this use of the basement as a sales room by Marshall Field and Company, it will be recalled that in an earlier chapter we stated that in the early days the basement of the Field store was occupied largely by boilers, engines, and other service essentials, and in part also by the reserve stock. Space for selling purposes was obtained by removing the reserve stock to the 5th and 6th floors, those floors being used at the time for workroom purposes only. On the 6th floor, there was the carpet and upholstery workroom, and on the 5th floor, the dressmaking workroom. The basement sales room was opened on May 31st, 1880. There were but 4 sections: medium-priced, dependable quality wool and cotton dress goods, prints and calicos, domestics and cotton bats and flannels. The first day's sales amounted to $507.84. For the first week, the sales aggregated $3,583.30. The basement at Marshall Field and Company was first used for the sale of goods at lower prices than those carried on the upper floors on January 1st, 1885, when linens were placed on sale in the basement. In September 1895, the number of sections in the basement had increased to 29. In 1898, their number was 45. Among the added sections was shoes. The main shoe section had been installed on the 2nd floor in 1892. The area of the main store basement today is 187,144 square feet, and the number of sections in the basement is 67. This statement may or may not convey an idea of the extensive space involved. To most readers, no doubt, it will be more illuminating to state, as is the truth, that Marshall Field and Company's basement is an immense department store in itself, but all on one floor. Moreover, due to the efficient ventilation system, the air is as pure and as cool as that of an upstairs sales room. Also, attention is paid to the maintenance of quality in the basement merchandise, just as consistently as is the case in connection with the goods carried in the upstairs sections. The observant visitor is astonished alike at the number of lines carried and at the size of the sections. There are women's, misses', and children's garments of all kinds. There are yard goods, silks, wool dress goods, cottons. There are laces, millinery, gloves, shoes, corsets, underwear, draperies, lamps, china, glassware, toilet goods, stationery, including commercial stationery, candy. In fact, practically all the lines that are carried in a department store having 5 or 6 floors and basement. And to this must be added all the menswear and boyswear lines, which are carried in the basement of the store for men. This basement is connected with the main store by a tunnel under Washington Street. The aisle leading to this tunnel is, it's safe to say, the longest aisle in any store in the world, extending from Randolph Street on the north to the southernmost edge of the store for men. This aisle measures 604 feet. Spaciousness of sections is especially noteworthy in connection with the women's, misses', and children's apparel. This section is carpeted throughout, and the pillars, as elsewhere in the basement, are surrounded by mirrors. Goods are carried in cabinets and stock rooms with a liberal display of merchandise on reels. The women's and children's shoe section is also very extensive. Noteworthy for its size also is the millinery. That section is also carpeted. The silks, dress goods, and other yard goods being located under the wide sidewalk along the State Street front have the benefit of a flood of daylight, although all the sections are well lighted by artificial means or otherwise. The equipment of all the sections is that of a high or medium class store. Mahogany shelving and counters are the invariable rule, and where carpet is not laid, the floor is of marble tiles. Floor cases and showcases are freely used, so that there is an excellent display of merchandise. This is added to in appropriate departments by suitable merchandise exhibits. For instance, in the draperies and lace curtain goods section, there are arranged against the pillars displays showing drapes and curtains as they would look in the home. Between the main store and the store for men, still speaking of the basement, there is a restroom, and quite a spacious one for the use of men as well as of women. The basement store for men is as fine a store in the matter of fittings and general appearance as any average store or department. In short, the entire basement, though handling goods of lower price than the upstairs section, is a mighty good example of a department store seeking the moderate-priced trade. The bargain atmosphere is entirely absent. It is a lower-priced store, but lower price only in comparison with the class of merchandise carried on the upper floors. The same standards as to the quality prevail in the basement as are insisted on in connection with the merchandise handled in the other branches of the firm's business. The basement, too, has its own conveniences for the public. There is, for example, a post office with parcel post facilities located close to the restroom already mentioned. Altogether, the basement at Marshall Fields and Company retail store is something as distinctive in its way as any other feature of that remarkable establishment. So the next chapter I'm going to share with you speaks about the development of the Marshall Fields Candy Kitchen. And I shared a little bit with you in the last episode number 21, that when I was in college, I had an internship at the corporate video department of Marshall Fields, and I worked in the State Street store. And the floor above where my office was where the candy kitchen was. So when I found this chapter in the book, I knew that I wanted to share it with you. So here's where we begin. Another example of Marshall Field and Company's entering on manufacture at the instance and assistance of a member of the store personnel is presented by the candy department and factory in the retail store. The man who many years ago was chiefly instrumental in getting this branch of the business started and who still directs it was employed in the accounting and systems offices. He was desirous of getting into the merchandising end and saw that in the making and selling of candy there was an opportunity both for himself and the firm. Thus there has been developed and built up what is to believe to be the largest candy factory in this country, which produces the highest quality of goods. The character and extent of the candy business in Marshall Field and Company's retail store is evident to anyone who visits the department and observes the merchandise and the scale on which the business is carried on. There are numerous points about the department itself which are well worthy of note by merchants. All of the candy handled in the department is made in the firm's plant, which is located on the top floor of the main retail building. Behind the wall shelving in the department space is provided for carrying of stock and the wrapping of goods. This stock is carried in spotlessly clean trays, in covered tin canisters, or, in the case of small hard candies, in metal bins above the counters. From these bins, the candies drop at the touch of a lever. The purpose of these stock and packing spaces is to quickly supply a customer with any kind of candy she may ask for, even when she does not see it on the floor case in which the goods are carried as well as displayed. These floor cases were specially designed by the department head. The woodwork is reduced to a minimum, and instead of the flat top and wholly straight up and down front, the floor cases slopes backward from a point of about halfway between the floor and the top of the case. This gives increased display space and high visibility. There is no reflection to interfere with the view of goods within. To ensure perfect cleanliness, there is a connection with each stock and packing space, a washstand with towels. Specialization in candies is carried to a fine point. There are birthday boxes, a different color for each month in the year. These colors matching those of the birthstones, sapphire, emerald, topaz, etc. For the diamond, there is a white box with a high lustrous finish. A pearl is represented by white with soft matte finish. For each month, there is an appropriate verse of poetry daintily printed on the inside of the lid. There are boxes wherein the candy is arranged so as to suggest the national emblem, the stripes in red and in white, and the Union in blue candy interspersed with fragments and glittering star-like effects. There are baskets of candy put up for convalescents. There is the bridal box in which the candy is emblematic of matrimony. There is an old shoe made of chocolate. The chocolates of ordinary shape bear the initial of the bride or groom. Inside the lid is printed information relative to wedding customs and their origin, the casting of the shoe, the throwing of the rice, and so forth. And on removing the tray, the newlyweds are reminded that even matrimony has its crosses by emblem of this shape made by duly arranging dark chocolates and white bonbons. Candy made in the retail store factory is also sold in the basement. There, however, the goods are handled more in the ordinary way. Absolute cleanliness, daylight in every section, and the use of modern methods and appliances mark the plant on the 13th floor in which the goods are made. Skylights and windows make the rooms bright. The ventilation system makes them airy. Washing sinks and liberal supply of fresh towels ensure the absence of dirt or other foreign materials on the hands or in utensils. The floors are tiled. To provide a low temperature in which to carry on the final operation of dipping, there is a spacious room in which refrigerated washed air is forced through ducts and drawn out by means of fans. In this room, we saw a pure white of egg used for chocolate creams. Stock is kept in the same low temperature on shelves behind glass. The cream used in the plant is of the finest quality and direct from the farm. It contains 22% of butterfat. Hard candies are made before open fires. The cooling of candies is done on slabs of steel or marble refrigerated in the proper degree. We were informed furthermore that no preservatives are employed in the making of Marshall Field and Company candies. They also speak to the workroom where millinery are created. It says the plant in which millinery is designed and made up for sale in the retail and also for custom orders placed by women who desire something exclusive is as light and airy as the other factories and workrooms. It is divided into 5 rooms or sections, each of which is under the guidance of a head trimmer, the whole being under the direction and supervisor of a manager. There are made up for stock in the retail during each year no less than 60,000 hats, in addition to all the hats made up to suit individual or exclusive ideas on the part of customers. All operations in hat developing are carried on. In some cases, the hat frame is molded to fit the customer's head. Many orders are taken for hats to be designed and made up for weddings or other important functions of a fashionable nature. Frequently, the entire millinery outfit for the bride and her bridesmaids is thus furnished by the Marshall Field and Company millinery section with the aid of the workrooms. A number of ideas and methods have been conceived and put into practice in this millinery workroom that are well worthy of study and emulation on the part of department stores and millinery concerns. There are in the machine section several complete equipments, each of which serves certain units. Thus, if a girl needs to use an ironing table, for example, she has to travel but a short distance. This saves both time and energy. Flowers, ornaments, and ribbons are displayed in floor cases just as they would be in a retail store. These displays are changed from time to time. The purpose of this is to keep goods before the eyes of the trimmers. Often, a girl will stop in passing one of the displays. Something there has caught her eye and given her an idea. It has just occurred to her that she can use that flower or ribbon or whatever in work on which she is engaged. One result of this method of displaying goods is that a demand can be created on the part of the trimmers for materials which are perfectly good, but are perhaps not quite so new as those the trimmer would naturally choose were it not for the suggestions which the displays provide. Another idea that is bringing splendid results is the use of specially made boxes. These boxes have glass inserted on the front so that the contents are visible. In the case of flowers and plumage, there is a partition near the front in which a sample is placed. In the case of silks and velvets, no such partition, of course, is necessary. The boxes are placed in plain wood shelving, built to accommodate the box without waste of space. These boxes are of solid, substantial character. They are easy to open and close, and thus minimize the danger of carelessness which leads to injured or damaged merchandise. Moreover, In connection with the displays, they tend to create in the minds of this worker a respect for their merchandise. This is a mighty valuable attitude from several standpoints, more especially when, as in Marshall Fields and Company workroom, the average number of work people is about 250. The foregoing are just a few conditions which cause this millinery workroom of Marshall Field and Company to differ from those in far too many retail stores in this important particular, that it is a profit maker. As already indicated, in addition to the plants located on the upper floors of the main retail building, there are several workrooms and actual factories operated in behalf of the retail and located in some other structures. In one of these outside factories are manufactured clothing for men, young men, and boys. This plant, located on Western Avenue, is wholly modern in equipment, having been put in operation in 1919. The rug, carpet, and furniture workroom is located in a 10-story building at Fulton and Desplain Street. This building also is serving as the warehouse for the retail reserve stocks of those lines. This last mentioned plant employs 275 operatives making goods to order for customers of Marshall Fields and Company retail store. And finally, I thought I would read to you a little bit from the chapter of the training of employees and personnel work. It's an interesting chapter because it really speaks to how much things have changed. Here we go. Brief reference has been made in earlier chapters to the methods adopted by Marshall Field and Company in connection with the training of employees in the retail store. In 1912, this form of activity began to take on a more definite and extensive character. In that year, 50 of the youngsters of both sexes who had not the opportunity to finish the 8th grade in grammar school were enrolled in a school known then as now as the Junior Academy. The course of instruction included grammar, arithmetic, penmanship, spelling, and history. At the end of the first year, 20 were graduated. During the second year, 50 reached the point of graduation. In the third year, the course was extended to include some study of textiles and also of the policies and methods of the concern. Later on, the educational system was further broadened so as to take in older employees, inasmuch as among those who desired to take advantage of the instruction provided were a certain proportion of young men and women who had attended college and who might have rebelled at going back to school. The use of the latter word was scrupulously avoided. Thus the place of instruction was entitled and invariably spoken as the conference room. 6 years after the educational work had been instituted, a law was enacted by the Illinois legislature requiring that all children under 16 years of age regularly attend school. The passage of the measure entailed no changes of method on the field organization, for the firm's educational work more than met all the new requirements. The work done in the Field Academy, indeed, was recognized by state officials as entirely in accord with requirements. Up to a recent period, the Academy used to enroll 300 juniors. At the present time, the firm avoids as far as possible the hiring of boys under 16 years of age and does not hire any girls under that age. As a result, the Academy enrollment is now less, varying between 40 and 60. The course has again been broadened, however, so that it now includes retail selling, business ethics, civics, commercial geography, hygiene, and also stenography, typewriting, and the use of calculating machines. Textbooks and other requisites, such as stationery, are furnished free of charge by the firm. Moreover, all of the classes are held on the firm's time, or in other words, during the store's working hours. High school courses are given each afternoon to those employees over 16 years of age who care to attend. The educational and personnel work carried on in Marshall Field and Company's store occupies the greater part of the 12th floor. Before being accepted as employees, applicants are very carefully selected. The store of Marshall Field and Company has so high a reputation for the care it takes of its employees that a small help-wanted advertisement will bring applicants to the employment department in shoals, and there are frequent occasions when those who make the first examination spend a mighty busy time in the effort to accept only those who can prove themselves to be up to the Marshall Field and Company standard. The first calling out is performed by 2 college women in this busy season, by one at other times. All applicants are looked over and interviewed by one of these women. If there is a chance of the applicants meeting the requirements, he or she receives an application form and is told to fill it out. The information thus elicited tends to show the kind of work for which the applicant is fitted. If the statements written in the form indicate fitness, the applicant is passed on to a member of the staff who has charge of the hiring of people for certain divisions of the store work. One man hires all the employees for system positions, such as cashiers, inspectors, and employees in the delivery system. Another engages all the office help. A third has under his charge the selection of porters and employees for work along similar lines. To a fourth is entrusted the duty of selecting employees who are to start in when under 18 years of age. The selection of salespeople is in charge of 2 men. The addition to this, floormen, and also salespeople for special purposes, are selected and engaged by 2 men of higher positions and long experience in the handling of store personnel. The first thing attended to after a new employee has been engaged is a medical inspection or examination. This is performed in the medical bureau, which is an important part of the personnel work of Marshall Field and Company. In accordance with the requirements of the city's health department, the new employee is required to produce his or her vaccination certificate. If the examination proves physical fitness for entrance into the field organization, a record of the engagement of the new employee is made on a form provided for this purpose and is filed in the personnel department. The new employee is sent to the educational department to be initiated in the making out of sales checks and other details. In the brief course for this purpose, there are presented to the student for a solution of a number of problems, each of which is based on actual store work. Isn't that all just fascinating? It took me back to when I worked retail for the first time and I had to go into a training at a department store. There's something so exciting about getting your first job and being trained for it. At least that's how I experienced it over the years. So I appreciate you letting me share this with you, and I hope you have drifted off to sleep by now. The angels and I wish you well. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful night's sleep, that your dreams are sweet, and that tomorrow comes to you after a good night's rest, and that the day tomorrow will bring you brightness and light. So for now, I bid you sweet dreams, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.